Okay. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful. In the presence of the original unconditional moment that all conditional moments arise and return to. In the honor of the system admin of this world room. And who are we kidding? We didn't create the world. We didn't create our bodies. We logged into this reality and we navigate through it. In other words, in honor of the system admin of this existential system and the world host, of this world room, one must honor the great source of everything that moves in the realm. In the same way there is respecting your elders, there's also respecting, let's say, what is like an elder energy. The human situation is very complex. It's very interesting. I decided to talk today about something that makes us wonder about sociological structure around the globe. And just this notion that if the world is unknown and if it's changing, how have people been judging others? Right? Like, what is judgment in an unknown, changing world? We need to cover this topic. What judgment is a review of what is there. And human beings, when they live their lives, to simplify it, there are two major ways you can live your life. I'm saying this to you as even a soul, okay? One is you go the path of honesty. One is you go the path of working with simulated information. So honest people are seeking the original reality. They're trying to live an original life. Dishonest people, it is so easy for them to want to, in some sense, bring disharmony. You know, it's the sign of a boring person to be bored. To be honest, guys, if you're like this lecture, I'm trying to explain like how in an unknown changing world people have been judging others. What is the geometry behind it? We're talking about the concept of judgment. Judgment can be seen through a branch of ethics, okay, in some sense, the notion of mortality. In other words, human beings, it's not just we're objects and we're seeing objects, we are processing the value of an object through dualistic circumstances. In other words, it's like a person is neutral and they become good and bad based on their action and the consequence of their action. Do you understand what I'm saying? That means it's like if nobody did anything, there would be no good and bad person. There would be no personality. It would be like a photograph. But when the person does something, they are animating in reality. They are an energy. They can have an influence on their outer realms. And it's impossible to change something in the outer realms without the inner realms changing, by the way. I am a human being who I'm a futurist, and I also believe in a higher power, a system administrator to this existential system. I believe reality is simulated, but in the philosophy of what a simulation is, there must be an original for there to be a simulation. And so, there's so many games to play. Really, being a human being is about, not just about having purpose and a purpose that is greater than yourself, but it's about aiming and it's about your direction in reality. So when you look at this world, there's a way it translates to you personally, and there's a way where it actually is. This is the contrast between epistemology and ontology. Epistemology is how it's like how you know truth, and then the ontology is what is the truth actually, and how far can it surpass the humanized sectors of understanding. So we gotta wonder about what game to put our attention on. When the title is about what is judgment in an unknown changing in a changing unknown world, or in an unknown changing world, it is literally wondering about the human condition and trying to see how this geometry has value from different angles. So the title is a good question. The title is like somebody being like, wait a minute, how have we been judging? And in order to judge something, we require to be an individual. There needs to be a reference point. Judgment is like another way of saying it. It could be like cruel comparison, or it's just intense comparison. People are judged in accordance to something. And when I say judgment, I'm talking about like the depth of reality, where humans are not just concerned about being judged by themselves, being judged by others, but they are concerned about how their overall exit out of this realm is their judgment, really. Right? You see, it's kind of like you have eight. Okay, this is how I really see it. So this is where I'm starting from. I look at this world, and I've lived 12,500 days here. 12,500 days means 12,500 times I've logged in into the morning, into the conscious waking state, and I'm like, oh my God, another new day, another new self. And then I've logged out at the end of the night, and the same thing is repeated 12,500 times. Now, out of all these repetitions, I've started to notice things about the nature of reality. Okay, and what I've noticed immediately is that just like a multiplayer online game, you have these characters. This is the factual part. You have these beings that in front of their eyes, I term it the outer realms. Okay, this is Mr. Within's inner realm, and outer realm is in front of your eyes. You're accessing the outer realms. The outer realms is like a public existential server. Okay, it's like a public map. It's like first person point of view, but in a massive multiplayer online place. But instead of it being 2D and pixels, it's three-dimensional and made of the periodic table. Okay, so it's this elemental 3D game where we suddenly activate. Okay, and we are these entities that, it's funny, just like a character in a video game, the characters in the video game don't see each other sitting behind the screen. Like there may be voice chat activated, but like still they don't see each other sitting behind their computer screens from wherever in the world they are. They just find themselves that they are in the same map as a customized character, and this character in the video game can die and respawn endlessly, but the whole point of it seems to be what all the ancient deep traditions of reality have been saying. They're like, yo man, who's playing this game? Figure it out, soul, in an unknown world. So where I'm going with this is that I'm seeing 8.1 billion being humans in from a secular lens. The narrative is like this, that Because we developed a more advanced prefrontal cortex, we gained an awareness that could separate us from the environment. We could review the environment differently, revalue the environment differently, and then in some sense have the conditions adapt to us. Really, what humanity is the retaliation of an unknown emerging consciousness that managed to not just notice its body was separate from the world, but managed to notice that its awareness to what could happen, it could envision. It could like back in the day, human beings gathered together in tribes, all sharpened spears, and they hunted a mammoth to have food for a long time, right? What is that? That is the ability of the human being, because of the prefrontal cortex, to be capable of sharing meaning. So what happens is, from the moment we wake up, we exist in the spotlight of our own awareness. Okay, but then it's all about trying to connect to greater intelligent events, just like how Darwin was like looking at the world and he's like, it's about adaptation and survival, like Darwin concluded that I'm like a soul, who in a very similar way looked at this reality, and I'm like, what is everybody seeking? And I'm like, Darwin couldn't answer it because he wasn't alive now. And as a human being in 2026, when I look at human activity on the surface of the earth, what is it all going towards? And I realized it's all going towards accessing higher intelligent interaction levels. Now, somebody's going to be like, Mr.Within, explain. I'm saying that what is the great value that we as 8.1 conscious beings, that as being unknown beings that enter consciousness through certain formats, like what is the value that's like, why are we playing the game? And it's like to seek the greatest value. And what is that greatest value? I have come to the understanding that, think of it this way. If somebody tells you what is the price of like a bottle of water, okay, and imagine somebody says, okay, the price of a bottle of water is $3. But if someone says, okay, so you need $3 to, let's say, buy a bottle of water, okay, and thank God, like 2026 hasn't still envisioned humanity going into water shortage era like that. We should like be smarter than that as a species. Man, this world doesn't make sense. But because we fear what that means, it has to make sense, and there's constant character development. It's like human beings are not just biologically surviving and being active, they're psychologically, they're like, we're all living in our own fictions of what we can be. And there's something like humorous but also very fascinating about the human condition, that yes, like everybody, like 1,000 atheists can line up and be like, Mr.Within, you're a physical human being, relax, bro. And I'll be like, excuse me guys, what does the physical mean though? And that's where they all like, go back to the drawing boards. I mean, what else can I say? The whole point of life is that everything appears dualistic to us: night, day, good, bad, right, wrong, love, hate, all of this. All this duality is there, but when it comes to us, we're like, nah, man. In a dualistically contexted realm, I'm gonna be a specific individual, and I'm gonna be such an egotistical, specific individual that as time changes, I'm gonna resist it, and I'm gonna be this fixed condition that makes all the other conditions adjust to me. That's the ego, by the way. The ego is like an entity that is afraid of truth because it realizes it may not exist. Okay? Fear is usually is either like a tactic or it's something to be understood. I don't know how to say it. And of course, beyond that, we want, like, how do I say it? Like, my whole life, I wake up and I am guided by my furthest vision on reality. It's all about, like, it's not about somebody can accumulate knowledge, but a person can know to some degree what's going on, right? You have, like, we're all, you have these 8.1 billion humans, okay? And think of it this way. I wanted to say, like, in the last 300,000 years, there's been 117 billion humans that have existed. 8.1 billion human beings that are alive now means we're 7% of all human beings that have ever existed, and we're still original, natural humans, even though our behaviors are completely unnatural. Like, I don't see freaking squirrels giving podcasts. You know what I mean? I don't see like, you know, lions giving a roar cast. Do you know what I mean? Bad time to start a comedy career, but pretty much what I'm saying is that out of all the species on Earth, we are on top of the food chain not because of our power, but because of our awareness. The notion is that human beings have required at some point in their evolutionary development to forge invisible laws that act as boundaries for the human psychology. So, in the way, like when you drive on the street, there's lines to drive in between. Similarly, when you look at the psychology of the human being, you see that there is laws. And the funny and at the same time cool thing is that every human being you see that is born, right? They are born, and so ethics and philosophy is considered to be local. So what a person thinks is right and wrong in every culture may be different. Do you know? In Japanese culture, it's okay to bow, but in like Islamic and Middle Eastern Islamic culture, like you only bow to your creator, which is through prayer. Do you know? And it's like, a Muslim guy going in Japan and trying to treat Japan as like a Islamic country will suddenly realize that it's like in Japanese culture it's a sign of honor, and Japanese culture would be like, yo man, we keep bowing to this guy but he doesn't accept it. It's like driving the nation crazy. Like, reality is a set of rules. That's what I'm saying. Okay? And it's a set of objective rules and it's a set of subjective rules. And then it's a set of emotional rules. And at some point, you wonder how these rules are there. And then your consciousness suddenly reaches that moment in your life where it's like, okay, man, what did I input into this system? It's as if, like, imagine you discover yourself to be some sort of engine. And then you realize some parts of the engine you did not position there. You know? but some parts of it you did. And really what free will is, it changes in context when the world is more unknown than known. This cannot be denied. This is the original fact. Okay, the original fact is like we have access. We are in a place that is far larger than we have access to see. Okay, this means that we know we're under a rock. We know that man's vision of we can't index the whole cosmos, the whole universe. We can fathom it in regards to like the temperature of how far light has gone. But in reality, I find that the purpose of this life and the reason human beings are here is not to understand it complete, like it's impossible. It's like if they tell me what is the tome of the scholar's path, or if you were Indian, it would be Raja Yogi, or I don't know. In other traditions, it's like how the ego, if it is controlled with discipline, where does it lead? In the inner realms. There's a discipline in the outer realms, okay? You maintain routine. But then there's a discipline in the inner realms. Do you know what that means? That means until you understand that in every moment of life, you have been the awareness, the unknown instantaneous presence of an awareness to every object in the moment and every subject before you chose to animate as one. What does that mean? That means your mind is a faster intelligence, and I believe a higher dimensional intelligence than the body, right? That means the body is like accessing one world, but the mind takes that one world and can envision probabilities to it. You could be sitting on a couch watching Game of Thrones, and then suddenly you get hungry, right? And while you're sitting on the couch in your inner realms, behind your eyes, you've already opened the fridge door and you're wondering which food to eat up. Do you know what I mean? So it's that like, how do I explain it? The mind lives ahead. Okay, and the moment we realize this, it doesn't mean you're multiple beings. It just means that you are present in a world that has values in multiple ways. And one of the most fascinating things I came across was that what is the value of the human being, and has it been a limiting effort to just humanize everything? That means just to compare everything to the human archetype and be like, yo, it's real or not. That means what has made the human brain the ultimate filter of what truth has to be to the conscious force that is there. And to me, it's like, okay, on one level, sure, I'm not saying physicality doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like I'm a physical being right now, making these physical sounds, right? You know, generating these sound waves. It's like I'm being a very advanced dolphin right now. You know? Oh man. Ultimately, this is where I'm going with it. I'm saying like, okay, what do we find in the moment? Any opinion we had, let's say, just like, a basketball defender, it was like, slapped away, right? And we realized we're in a world that doesn't trust information that can't be referenced. That's how the sheep are, right? They don't care about the geometry of the information. They care if the information fits into, let's say, their emotional reality. Think of it this way. We as humans open our eyes in the morning. We log into this existential system, and we have a certain range of attention and like this spherical attention, but we have our biological sight access and get like 180, and from the edges can make out the 360. But you know. And to me, every human being is simultaneously an unknown life force that is moving a life form that the way we see that life form as known is because we have linked certain forms and properties to certain positions. Judgment is very heavy. You have rappers like Tupac saying only God can judge me. You have in many traditions, like even in Muslim tradition, right? No Muslim can go to another Muslim and be like, "You're a bad Muslim." They can't. You can't act like God. Do you know? That's the most key thing in Islam. And when let's say someone interprets a verse from the Holy Quran and says that verse has to be exactly what I see, that is equivalent to haram, I think. I have no debate about holy books being holy and being like transmissions from outside of the world room, but I cannot even when I talk about I do not say, you see, it's human interpretation of that which is beyond human. So there's always limits, and when you're conscious of your limits, you can be honest. If you're not conscious of your limits, you usually dishonest as a being. In other words, I'm like, yo, human life is not just like physical survival where it's a test of strength. It's not just physiological survival, it's psychological survival. And psychological survival means you're not just an object that has a value because you're being an object. You are an object that has value because you're present consciously in a subject. And that subject, for now, human beings are camped and grouped in nations. But as we walk towards the future, human beings are going to realize it's one species on one planet rather than all these different nations trying to get along on this planet. Species level awareness will become something the norm because the consciousness of beings is headed far further ahead. It's as if, like, think of it this way: how can I judge? Pretty much the title is, how can you judge anything in a changing world? That means by the time you judge it, you've changed and the thing has changed. I'm going to go into a research component right now. All right, guys. So I asked ChatGPT 5.4. Pretty much I copy pasted my title and I'm like, okay, give me an academic view, advanced view, and like arguments about it. I'm gonna read this because we want to. The whole point of it is not to hide in some closed system of an idea, but rather to realize that the system admin has created the user to wonder about where it is, to engage the nature of reality. The whole point of it is not to just sit on one view, but to try to see as many different views you can to the same moment. It's the luxury in the inner realms. Just like people travel to different countries to see different objects. Similarly, I'm saying in your inner realms, the subjects that you have assigned to objects can be so many different angles. Research component, academic view. In an academic sense, judgment in an unknown changing world refers to the human capacity to make sound decisions under conditions of uncertainty, limited information, shifting environments, and incomplete predictive power. It sits at the intersection of cognitive psychology, philosophy, decision theory, ethics, political theory, and systems thinking. Judgment is not identical to intelligence, knowledge, or logic alone. Rather, it is the integrative faculty through which a person evaluates evidence, weighs probabilities, interprets context, prioritizes values, anticipates consequences, and chooses action despite never having full certainty. From the perspective of cognitive science, judgment involves perception, memory, pattern recognition, bias correction, and bounded rationality. Human beings do not reason from a position of perfect information. They operate through partial models of reality and must constantly update those models as the world changes. From philosophy, judgment is closely related to prudence, practical wisdom, and reasoned discernment. In ethics, it concerns how one acts when rules do not mechanically solve the situation. In organizational and political life, judgment becomes essential because leaders and institutions must respond to novel conditions where precedent is insufficient. Thus, academically understood, judgment is the disciplined ability to navigate ambiguity with collapsing into paralysis, impulsiveness, dogmatism, or delusion. It is the bridge between knowing and acting in a reality that exceeds our grasp. Now we go to the most advanced view. So I'll just read that again. It says, thus, academically understood, judgment is the disciplined ability to navigate ambiguity without collapsing into paralysis, impulsiveness, dogmatism, or delusion. It is the bridge between knowing and acting in a reality that exceeds our grasp. Okay, I can see that, right? So it's in some sense, that's the way it's saying it. It is the bridge between knowing and acting in a reality that exceeds our grasp. That's what I'm trying to make all the listeners realize, guys. It's an unknown place. You're all unknown beings. Language is a game. It's the game of simulations we've been playing. It says in the most advanced sense, I'm going to keep reading. It's ChatGPT 5.4. I'm reading this. Most advanced view. In the most advanced sense, judgment in an unknown changing world is the self's live calibration within a partially intelligible cosmos. It is not merely decision making. It is the ongoing alignment of consciousness, value, perception, and action. All existence keeps shifting faster than any fixed map. To continue. Sorry, guys, just continue, I guess, from the beginning. I'll read it again from the beginning. In the most advanced sense, judgment in an unknown changing world is the self's live calibration within a partially intelligible cosmos. It is not merely decision making, it is the ongoing alignment of consciousness, value, perception, and action while existence keeps shifting faster than any fixed map can fully capture. Judgment is what allows a being move through unfolding reality without demanding that reality becoming simple first. At this deeper level, judgment is not only epistemic but existential. It is the faculty by which a conscious being stands between ignorance and action. between chaos and order, between the invisible future and the visible present. Every judgment is made within layers of uncertainty. We do not fully know the world, other people, ourselves, the future, or even the hidden forces shaping our interpretations. Yet we must still choose. Judgment is therefore the art of acting in a universe that never grants total transparency. The most advanced view sees judgment as a higher civilizational and evolutionary faculty. A being with judgment does not merely react to events. And that perception is filtered, that knowledge decays, that environments mutate, that there's unintended consequences, and that truth often arrives later than action must. Such a being learns to remain internally ordered while externally adaptive. Judgment then becomes neither rigid certainly nor endless doubt, but intelligent responsiveness, anchored in principles strong enough to guide action and flexible enough to survive revision. In this sense, one of the highest expressions of mature consciousness, it is the power to remain or reality is moving, layered, deceptive, unfinished, and larger than one's current understanding. So guys, yeah, I mean, this is in the sense of saying, like, yeah, when you're judging, like, the act of judgment is the comparison of values, but sometimes the judgment could be the comparison of value, right? And I'm just saying, even if we're comparing values, we're comparing the values in an unknown world, in an unknown context, and in a changing context. Okay, so where was I? There's more to this. Did I read all the way? Yeah, yeah. Now, here's some arguments for it. It says, one, judgment matters most precisely where knowledge runs out. If the world were fully known and stable, judgment would be less important. Rules and formulas would be enough. Judgment becomes most valuable at the edge of uncertainty, where no manual can fully solve the problem. This means judgment is not a secondary skill. It is the decisive human faculty for real life, because real life is rarely complete, stable, or fully explainable. We have two, intelligence without judgment can become dangerous. A person may be brilliant yet disastrous. Intelligence can generate options, arguments, and strategies, but judgment decides which possibility fits reality, timing, ethics, and consequences. This is why highly intelligent people can still run companies, relationships, governments, and civilizations. Judgment is what prevents cleverness from becoming catastrophe. We go to three. Judgment is the true meeting point of truth and action. Knowledge alone does not move the world. Action does. But action without understanding is reckless. Judgment is fascinating because it is the exact place where understanding must become decision. It is the point where the mind stops merely observing and starts bearing responsibility. Four, every judgment is made from inside a limited creature. Human beings judge from within cognitive limits, emotional states, cultural frameworks, and personal histories. This means judgment is always both necessary and vulnerable. It must be exercised even though the judge is not omniscient. That makes judgment one of the most profound human conditions. We are finite beings forced to decide as though our choices matter because they do. Five, the future cannot be fully known, yet still demands response. One of the deepest arguments is that life does not wait for certainty. The future arrives before it is understood. A doctor, general, parent, investor, leader, or citizen must act before all variables are available. Judgment is fascinating because it is humanity's answer to this permanent asymmetry. Reality reveals itself too slowly, but choice cannot be postponed forever. We go to six. Judgment is more than logic because value is always involved. No judgment is purely technical. To judge well, a person must decide what matters more and less. Safety or freedom, speed or precision, loyalty or truth, short-term relief or long-term gain. This shows that judgment always contains a hierarchy of values, even when disguised as neutral reasoning. It is therefore moral as well as cognitive. 7. Good judgment requires knowing what not to trust in yourself. A fascinating feature of judgment is that it includes self-suspicion. A mature judge knows that fear can distort risk, this desire can distort evidence, pride can distort certainty, and group pressure can distort conscience. So judgment is not simply confidence in one's mind, it is the disciplined correction of one's mind. 8. Judgment is the art of being firm without becoming rigid. In a changing world, pure rigidity fails because conditions evolve, but total flexibility also fails because it dissolves principle. Judgment is a rare faculty that holds both stability and adaptation together. It preserves a center while allowing revision. That tension is one of the marks of maturity. 9. The greatest failures in history are often failures of judgment, not information. Many disasters happen not because no one knew anything, but because people misread timing, ignored warning signs, clung to old models, obeyed incentives, or lacked courage. This suggests that civilization rises or falls not merely on data, but on the quality of judgment applied to data. 10. Judgment is what turns experience into wisdom. Experience alone does not teach. Many people repeat the same mistakes for years. What transforms experience into wisdom is reflective judgment. A person must interpret what happened, see the pattern, adjust the model, and carry the learning forward. Without judgment, experience is just repetition. 11. Judgment is needed because reality is layered, not flat. In an unknown, changing world, things are rarely what they first appear to be. A market boom may hide fragility. A calm person may hide pain. A political slogan may hide power interests. A short-term success may produce long-term decay. Judgment is fascinating because it tries to read beneath the surface and across time. 12. Even refusing to judge is itself a judgment. Some people think suspension of judgment keeps them safe from error, but in real life, not deciding is often also a decision. Guys, judgment is not like, there's a view on judgment that's emotional, and then there's a view on judgment that's like analytical. Okay, so when it says judgment is important, it's not saying like judging people from your own view only is like that's what's important. It means being able to look at the moment clearly, like an eagle that's flying from a branch that it's been on for years and into a sky, unknown sky or state where it can see all the known states, all the force at the same time, right? Anyways, it says it says some people think suspension of judgment keeps them safe from error, but in real life, not deciding is often also a decision. Refusing to choose lets other forces choose for you. This means judgment cannot truly be escaped. It is built into existence itself. Judgment is where humility and courage meet. Humility alone may hesitate forever. Courage alone may rush blindly. Judgment is the union of the two. It admits uncertainty yet still moves. That combination is one of the most powerful forms of human strength. 14. Judgment is central to freedom. A being without judgment is easily manipulated by slogans, impulses, fear, propaganda, crowds, and algorithmic nudging. Genuine freedom requires the ability to evaluate what one is seeing and not simply react. In that sense, judgment is one of the core defenses of human autonomy. 15. Advanced civilization depends more on collective judgment than raw power. A civilization may have great technology and still be immature. Nuclear power, AI, biotechnology, and mass media magnify consequences. The more power a civilization has, the more judgment matters. Advanced civilization is therefore not just higher capability, it is higher judgment governing capability. I can see that. But I think that judgment that governs the advanced civilization must be the judgment of the most advanced power. So it's the most advanced state that is keeping the civilization in the most advanced way. I don't know how to tell you. It's like the advanced expression requires advanced energy. Then we go to 16. Judgment must operate even when language is inadequate. Sometimes reality changes before society has proper words for what is happening. People may sense a transformation before they can conceptualize it. Judgment often begins in the pre-verbal zone, where one feels that an old map no longer works but a new one has not yet formed. This makes judgment partly an art of orientation before full articulation. My God, how many of these are there? Okay, there's a little bit. 17. Judgment is practical form of wisdom under time pressure. Wisdom is often imagined as reflective and timeless. Judgment is wisdom forced into the stream of time. What a sentence. Judgment is wisdom forced into the stream of time. It must choose now under pressure, with consequences attached, that makes it more dramatic and more difficult than abstract wisdom. 18. Every person lives inside changing systems they do not control. Economies shift, technologies mutate, norms evolve, climates change, institutions weaken, and global events cascade across borders. Judgment is fascinating because it is the means by which a limited individual attempts to remain sane and effective within systems vastly larger than themselves. 19. Judgment reveals the quality of consciousness better than opinions do. Anyone can hold options. Judgment is shown when action is required, trade-offs appear, uncertainty increases, and consequences become real. At that point, the structure of a person's mind is exposed. This is why judgment is one of the deepest tests of character and consciousness. 20. Judgment is a form of navigation, not possession. Perhaps the most profound argument is that judgment does not mean possessing final truth. It means navigating faithfully toward better truth while moving through uncertainty. It is not omniscience. It is orientation. The judged person is not the one who knows everything, but the one who can keep recalibrating without losing reality. Now we go to a strong synthesis. Judgment in an unknown changing world is fascinating because it reveals the true human condition. We're not gods operating with total knowledge, nor machines following perfect rules. We are finite conscious beings required to act inside unstable reality using partial understanding, moral priorities, and fragile perception. Judgment is therefore not a minor skill. It is one of the highest human powers. It is the faculty by which we remain responsible, adaptive, and oriented while the world continues to unfold beyond us. So from an academic view, judgment is the integrative human capacity to make reasoned decisions under uncertainty, incomplete information, and changing conditions. From an advanced view, judgment is the self's living calibration within a reality that keeps moving faster than certainty can catch it. Judgment, this is the last thing it says, judgment is how a finite being acts responsibly in a world that never fully reveals itself. All right, we're done with the research component. I'll say, I'll take this more towards like how I see it. Pretty much, we are conditional entities, and these conditions are changing. The human intelligence is defined by its ability to adapt to conditions. But if you are a religious person, God is like somehow an archetype for an unconditional. It's an archetype of an absolute being that the conditions adapt to it. You see, it's all about that the world was a mysterious place. And because they could not interpret that mystery, they reduced reality's meaning. It's equivalent to our early human beings, humorously, if I was to say it, like our early ancestors opened their eyes and they're like, all right, guys, what are we looking at? and it was too big, too unknown, too unexplainable, and they were like, all right, let's simplify it. And through, believe it or not, the simplification of a complexity, it's like where simulations are born sometimes. Do you know? So what we see in life is the human species is converting all the objects in front of its eyes into simultaneous subjective values in a spectrum and hierarchy behind its eyes, like a Cartesian plane. That means when I said earlier that all life is based on, I think the thing that moves us is based on, like, why are we surviving? Maslow said it's for you to self-actualize, yo. After you physically survived, psychologically survived, emotionally survived, at some point you you reach a moment where you don't depend. It's not you just adjusting and fitting into a survivable condition. It's like, poetically, I would say it's the roar of your own soul. I am someone who has a mind that in my inner realms I have poetically and humorously fathomed my future selves coming and scolding me. Or in some sense, if I had to explain, on some level, the complexity of reality has to do with your attention to it. I was trying to say earlier that, like, the price of, let's say, water is like $3, but what is the price of money? How much? It's like, why can't I use money, to buy more money? And you realize, because the price of money is human time. Okay. Now the next question is, okay, so if human time is the price of money, like, this is the whole difference in economical classes, right? It's like and one side of the line, time is more important than money. Other side of the line, money is more important than time. Okay, so the price of money is time, and so that technically means the most important, most valuable thing for, like, the human beings is at some point just time, the quality of your time in this world. Okay, now here's the thing, why is time important? Because time provides a space where you can have, as an intelligent being at your core, interactions with intelligence. I'm saying what is more important than time is the intelligence level in during that time. Do you understand? It's just like YouTube videos. You have low resolution videos and you have high resolution videos. Like, you can make the video high resolution. In the same way, I'm saying it's not just about time. It's not just about you watching the video, you experiencing this game of life. It's about the resolution. Like, you should be experiencing this life HD. That HD doesn't necessarily mean in the outer realms everything is perfect. HD means you have choice, not ultimate choice, but you have a choice to contextualize yourself as a being. That means, imagine, like, we're 8.1 billion soldiers in a battlefield. We're dressed in the armor of the human species, right? And before a general comes and gives a speech, you see different soldiers. Some are scared, some are not scared. Some of them are super confident because they know why they're there, you know? And eventually, let's say the general comes and gives a speech, and 8.1 souls on a world realize that their great war ahead is not a physical war. It is the challenge, the next great challenge, like a higher level quest for human beings to realize it's a species on Earth, and how would a species on Earth govern itself. So in the same way, you see yourself as an individual with different aspects of you all being governed through, let's say, your ego, right? In the same way, when we look at human civilization, all human activity on the surface of the Earth, right? And all the nations, even, they're like different parts of a brain. It's like their connecting point is not getting rid of those sectors, but realizing nationalism was just a limited early attempt at unity, at species unity. And so all nations technically are sub-nations to all human beings, identifying with how they are members of the human species, natural human species, before they are a specific idea based on a specific chunk of land that's been painted over, like the same way primitive people painted their face. We painted the face of the earth and we thought we were way more civilized than primitive people. Like, I'm telling you guys, there has always been an outer life and inner life. Your inner life has access to your inner realms. Because it has access to your inner realms, it technically means you have access to subjective models and probabilities to the objective moment. Okay, before you act in the objective moment. You know? There is like meditation where you're going towards stillness, but imagine you were the opposite. And somebody's like, yo, man, is there anybody who can teach how to go fast in my inner realms rather than stilling everything? And I would say that how you go fast is actually based on your identity. That means if I roll a solid, it has a certain speed. If I roll a liquid across a surface, it has a certain speed. If I release a gas, and where those particles move has a certain speed. And in the inner realms, it all depends on your identity. If you're solidified in an identity, life is heavy and slow. If reality is not contextually a closed system, you are open-minded, and then it's like fluid. It's like your identity is in a liquid state, right? And then, if it really identified from the gas state, this technically means that the idea of you has no owner. This is an issue non-dualists find. They're like, how am I being non-dual right now? But on some level, everything simplifies through the framework of the unknown. I'm that dude, and Mr. Within is that dude in history who's trying to use the unknown to unify a species. It's like, what do we have in common? Well, we don't have in common every specific thing we know, but we have, or how we know things. We all have different DNA and viewpoints and different ways we've been raised in and traveled in this world. What we have in common, though, is everything we don't know. And I'm trying to unite the species by being like, yo, guys, stop the species civil wars, which is all wars on Earth. If we all unite as one species, resources can be allocated, and we have plenty of planetary resources. It's like nations don't have enough resources, but a species has the whole resources of the planet. And way more advanced humans may find it way more efficient. And in some sense, they're like, understand what's happening right now. I'm not a politician. I don't want to comment on anything geopolitically, but I want to say right now, to me, politics is like, yo, man, it's all about like deals and behind the scenes, and it's just like everything has to adjust to that. And it's kind of like a dishonest era in politics. Okay? But I'm telling you, in the future, imagine like in 1 year, all the politicians were like, guys, we've decided. And they decide to, in some sense, all nations opting in, like becoming gym members to the gym of the nation of humanity. This nation of humanity is not governed by any cultural idea. That is how it maintains its purity. Right? The point of it is, I'm like, okay, human beings are waking up, and then they're engaging reality. And as they engage reality, they find meaning. Right? But I'm saying that it's like everybody's also starting from their own inner realms. We got to step beyond our own meaning. And you'll at some point realize everything you have judged was simply just like how a person speaks and there's a voice. Judgment is like there's something within your nature, internal, in your subconscious, and you found a way to consciously express it without taking responsibility for it. Do you understand? Like there's humans that can be responsible for their emotions without needing it to express in the outer realms. But there's some human beings who can't handle emotions or they can't understand what's going on in their inner realms. And so the only way they can understand it is projected onto others. Right? That means if somebody makes you feel something, that feeling is happening within you. Right? Whether it's a good feeling or a bad feeling, it's something that's happening within you. And let's say if you get a bad feeling, suddenly you say, "Yo, man, you're a bad person." That's like you not being able to understand that the emotion arose from your inner realm. And because you couldn't understand that, the only way you could understand it was from it being external to you. So it had to be blamed on what was external. At some point, humanity will realize there's a complexity to all this, but it can be simply navigated. I'm saying, like, yo, man, what have we been judging? Like, have abstract fictional senses of self identifying with non fictional bodies been judging other people's abstract non fictional selves? From one angle, we've been raised to treat all of it as real. From another angle, there's so many simulations happening at the same time. The biological body is a simulation for a certain amount of years on Earth. The psychological states are simulations from the moment you log in. So, like, what is it? Like 16 hours a day. And during that 16 hours, your body, okay, based on what happens, changes, but also your mind and psychology. Like, having a mind as a being is equivalent to living many lives during one day. It's like living many days in one day, based on all the ways you can probabilize it. Do you know? The mind has, I think it's been kind of like how blacksmiths hammer a sword to straighten it. I feel our minds have kind of been forged by the circumstances of our environments, both internal and external, to either treat systems as open or closed. Do you know what I mean? And usually closed is interpreted as safe and familiar, and open systems are scary. An open system means it can change. When I say an unknown changing world, that's like one human being like, guys, we can't see the full. We can only, we're in a small part of the observable universe. We can't see all of it to index it. And it's like in like one room of a mansion, cosmic mansion, we're trying to be like, yo, man, from inside this room, this is what the whole mansion looks like, and we're fighting over it. It's like unnecessary. Even proof becomes strange. They're like, yo, man, give me proof. What you're saying is true. I'm like, buddy, the truth is that there's more unknown than known. 95% of it is dark energy, dark matter, too dark to see. If we can't see this, like, where are we? It's like we're judging limited sight. And even if we could index the whole cosmos, we couldn't get through the changing side of it. We're like, even if we could see the edge of the cosmos, it's still changing, though. And this is the phenomenal thing I think about, how, like, this is the challenge, really. This is what I think the real philosophers are working on. There's this view that what is inside existence cannot explain why existence exists from outside of existence. In other words, those people who are kind of oblivious, treating all of it as true. Then there are those who are realizing it's not about just good or bad, is a distraction from the original and simulated. It's like we've all been simulated here for some time. Why? Isn't that weird? We've all been simulated with mouths and ears. We've all been simulated to be able to access servers of shared meaning, right? But strangely, human beings are living lives that they are just real to themselves, and then they leave this world. And it's all about honor is based on the scale of service. A child like redirecting a hose that's like being headed towards like an anthill, right? Like there's an honor to that. And like the most advanced human being strategizing for the most advanced expression and efficient expression of an advanced civilization is also similar. So it's the scale is different. I think the thing about being what men or what the masculine energy on earth is here to teach all energies, right, is in some sense that there is the unknown and inevitably the uncharted requires to be explored. So out of all, whatever we are as a species, there has to be a force that in some sense enters the unknown, that consciously engages the unknown first. Do you know? That means it's like, what is protection? Let's say a human being on earth, they're like, I want to feel protected. What do they need protection from? What part of them requires protection? That means if they are, let's say, traditional body, mind, soul, it's like, do they just want physical protection? Do they want just mental protection? Do they want solar protection? To me, it's all about forces. Like everything changed when I started to see people as forces. That means, yes, I do see a physical body to the human being, but there is a force that's moving everything. And that force has a will that surpasses the environment. This is why the person, when they go sit on a coffee shop chair, like they're not sitting there forever. They have an ability to get out of one room and step into another room. And that's kind of like the mystery of consciousness, the ability for subjective experience to instantaneously change. And the psychologists are like, thank God nobody's that deep to ask. Like I'm telling you, neurologists and psychologists, they're so happy, right? Because they don't know what to say if people really, like there's a sentence in human civilization where people are like, yo man, that's too deep. And anytime that sentence is heard, too deep, that's equivalent like, I don't want to see further. It's as if there was a command given every human soul. Find the furthest sight in your world and bring it back to the species. We must advance civilization internally through advanced visions, externally through advanced structures. In the same way, an existential being, same moment that an existential being is managing its experience on Earth is the same moment an experiential being is managing its existence on Earth. When you understand this, you realize all identification with reality is instantaneously being the whole state of mind, the whole state of consciousness. Anyways, the world's too unknown. If we're judging reality, it's based on the limits of our own internal closed systems. It's still a mystery. It's still fascinating. And I cannot wait to see how ingenious the future generations will be. I saw something, guys, that my faith in the future generations were restored. So Canada is a multicultural place. I was at this shopping center called Center Point Mall. I was parked there in front of it, and I saw that there were these two Filipino kids, okay, and there was this let's say Caucasian kid, right, red-haired kid, right, and this red-haired kid had crutches, but these his two friends, which it was obvious it was like classmate friendship, right? These two friends, right, to put this kid who couldn't walk, put his hands over their shoulders, and they were walking for him. And I was there in my car chewing Wendy's fries. You know what I mean? Like looking at this and being like, wow, right? It's all about Eventually, when I was telling you higher intelligent interaction levels, the highest intelligent interaction level is collective shared meaning. So I'm saying everybody's living in their own individual personal meaning. The more advanced among us are living in collective shared meaning. It's not about just what are you doing in a species. It's about what is your species doing in a world. When you become responsible for that, it doesn't matter what sort of being you are. The force of honor flows through you. A sort of universal honor flows through you. You're like, what have I been doing? Just being responsible in my own limited story. I'm a member of a species present on a planet in an unknown place. Doesn't matter if it's geocentric, heliocentric, it doesn't matter what it's spinning around. If the center of the world is spinning around a giant sun or a giant black hole, doesn't matter. It's all that existence is the clue. The fact that anything exists at all is a clue of a higher order process. And we as the lower simulated beings, simulated processes, right? This is the hardest thing for us to do. This is the maturity of species, where we have assumed our perspective to be ultimate in an era of ideological individual self-worship. They're like, yo, man, how do we distract the species from its true nature? Oh, yeah, we make everybody worship themselves and fight over it. Such a waste of time when the advance calls upon everything to go forth. Let the species not fear its greatness at the cost of individual looping comfort. Greatness means an outcome beyond what we can imagine now. That means imagine like everybody living right now on Earth. Imagine tomorrow they woke up and you saw 8.1 billion humans that were living consciously in their inner realms, envisioning what their most advanced self in their most advanced world would be like. Have you ever wondered about that? Everything is being judged based on the past to the present. We look at humans and we're like, what did you do to get here? And that's how we value them. We don't value them that, yo, this being, it doesn't matter how they got here, from the present to the future, they have a value. The term for that is potential. And so it doesn't matter how foolish or messed up or psychotic the species acts, it has a conscious advanced potential. In the inner realms of the species, there has been humans that, just like flying cars don't exist, we can envision them. In the same way, just like advanced civilizations don't exist yet, we can imagine the most advanced expression of humanity. We can imagine that we live in such an advanced way that, hilariously, in a sci-fi hypothetical way, if aliens were looking at us, they'll be like, yo, these animals aren't worshiping themselves anymore. These animals are not fighting for their own personal subjects anymore. These animals are suddenly realizing they're not just animals, and that their consciousness has been the presence of the field of their world. That in the same moment they have been living as individuals, they now realize the species is living through a species, collective intelligence has been living through them. They realize that all manifestation is happening in the presence of an original, unconditional moment that is the only explanation of what could have been the world before the world. Rise, mankind, rise. Because the unknown is descending upon us. Do you know what that means? That means it's like humanity is like this advanced natural technology that has been sleeping and has been, in some sense, has gone into an unnatural man-made slumber. That means we're natural biological technology that's been put in an unnatural man-made technology, which is civilization. We're legit natural beings which put on cloth and it stands straight and in some sense communicate as a civilizational entity, right? Like, we're not living, like, we're unnaturally living. We're legit in that phase of history where they're like, what phase of history were being still natural, but they were starting to live unnaturally? It would be now. 2026, to be human, a conscious human, is the most unnatural thing in nature, yo. Nature's like, yo, man, I created environments and then beings would live in those environments. But we were that sort of divine intervened miracle that we were like, yo, man, I want to get out of here. Like, that was such an advanced state of consciousness. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced, there is a higher power here. We are the simulated lower power. Through an Islamic theological lens, there's a verse that says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, which means all praise due to the Lord of worlds. The Lord of worlds is a power present beyond all worlds. If all worlds are conditional, the absolute being is unconditional. And the absolute being, through the theological lens, has not chronologically created reality, has not built it like Lego. We are in a commanded simulation. We are legit, our souls are original commands that are moving this program in this system. Do you understand? And the point of it is that we are situated to not just become aware. So from the Islamic viewpoint, it's very profound, because it says, there's a verse that says the soul is the Amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the command of the one and only system admin, the unconditional God. And also it says man knows very little. And in another part of the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says that God created man as a Khalifa, or the human being is a Khalifa. Khalifa translates as an ambassador. And we are positioned as beings that are ambassadors of the higher qualities. That means an answer to why did God create man. So man is also a beacon to the lower realms of the divine attributes. In other words, technically the theological story of what we are is that the highest power commanded us into power, into a certain position of power. And in the same way, religiously, man was made of clay. In the same way, now we are beings being tested in certain conditions that we need to, like clay, adapt to or adjust to. There's a great mystery that cannot be contained in human ideas anymore. Species has noticed that. Anyways, thank you for listening. May God bless the species. And may the most advanced potential of humanity activate. Greatness is an option. That means when chaos and order were battling it out and we thought those were the two options, it's like, no. There's another option, the advanced option. You live your life in accordance to the most advanced values fathomable to your intelligence. Honor the moment, for where else can honor be found? We are being responsible for mankind. We become stewards of the species. Then we become responsible for Earthkind. We become stewards of the planet. We care for the evolution and advancement of all living beings, and we stop eating animals. We find another way to like eat. And so after we've become stewards of Earthkind, we become stewards of Starkind. And that would be far further in the future, where human beings, everything will become celestialized. All human global culture will become celestialized. It would be the true interstellar renaissance in global culture, where even parents will name their children after stars. or there will be new names for stars even. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great day. And there will be a Discord event tonight. Definitely join that. It's about the future of the group discussion on the future of the species. Take care.